Action. Meadow. Oh my.
Hey.
Can I just tell you, it's 2 o'clock right now in LA as we're recording this, and I had way too much time before I got to see you today. And I was just it was like someone told me I got to unwrap a present later. And I was like,
Oh,
darn it, this
that
has
is
been
the
the longest day.
nicest. That's the nicest way to phrase that ever because I was thinking today, one of the first things I wanted to tell you was thank God you didn't make me record this at 4 in the morning. I don't know
Oh, well,
how you do that.
I know. I think that's a
I'm
big
in
part
awe.
part
I'm in absolute
of what
awe.
was so challenging as well. But yeah, I feel so honored to get to have you on the podcast. Thank you for saying yes, my love.
The easiest
And
yes of my life. I'm
oh,
thrilled to be here. And you know
we
it.
I mean, yeah, and I was thinking about how much you are one of those people. There are few people in my life that instantly from the moment we met, it was like, "Oh, I'm yours, you're mine. We are
Yeah.
meant to just be so safe and cherished in each other's presence." And you're one of those people that everything about my life quirks, you have just created so much safety around. So let me just go on record with saying thank you. I adore you. You are such a gift. And I don't know. I think there's so much about the way that you experience the world and the way that I learn every single time we sit down and have one of our rap sessions. And I was like, oh, we need to sit down and just do it recording. So I
I
don't know.
mean, you know it feels like holding a mirror back to you because I should have grabbed it before we started, but I still have the Polaroid we took from the day we met.
Oh,
Do you remember
yes.
on back in the TMB days? And
TMB.
for listener lore, I was reading Dene's book
Hmm.
in anticipation of doing a podcast together in another lifetime. And exactly what you said, I read the book and I was like, oh, this is my girl. Like we're friends.
Oh
And
my
you showed up and I
gosh.
was like, you don't know it yet, but you're sticking with me.
I was
And we
like,
just fell in
yes,
love.
absolutely accepted. I love you. You're everything.
I'm
Yes.
just, we will spare the listeners an hour and a half of us just being obsessed with each other
Yeah,
because
we
you
can
know
do
what? That
that.
is a cute, we can do that and we do that. I think
I think
our friendship is very cute in how much we vocally express our love and admiration for each other.
we definitely do. And when we've gone places together, we've spent a great deal of time. Well, I would rather you guys hear Meadow's opinion on this because she is just the most brilliant. And I was telling someone the other day about how, you clock these little things about me that feel so endearing and loving you. You're like, my girl will get lost. She
Oh,
will
yeah.
just struggle to find her way around wherever she is. And that's such a part of why I love having you by my side.
Your
But
quirks are
again,
your lore. That's what makes the friendship so much fun, you know?
thank you, my love.
Of
Well, so I do
course.
this thing where I pull a card before
I'm
and
familiar.
just see, yes, what it might bring up as we're in conversation and how we might wrap it all up and circle back to how it, spirit was speaking to us at the beginning through this card. So I pulled from the deck that I got when I was actually at Omega Institute with you, felt
Oh,
fitting, this Sufi Tarot deck. And the card that I pulled, Meadow, which I think is interesting, I'm curious to hear your
okay.
thoughts on this, but it's Dervish, which this is the card for anyone watching on YouTube. It's the Hermit. It's their
Ooh,
version of the Hermit, which I thought was really interesting, but I'm going to read it real quick.
okay.
So, upright, solitude, soul searching, wisdom in quiet introspection, meditation, contemplation, self reflection, quest for answers, comfort with being unconventional. I'm reading kind of fast because I want to talk to Meadow. But, you and I've had this conversation, but I don't read reverse, and you don't either, do
I
you?
I was immediately going to say hot take. Cuz you and I think everything has a shadow and that's just part of the experience. So it's not
Yes.
necessarily like a binary
Yes.
reverse or anyway, keep going, please.
So, okay. So we don't need to read that. Okay. So the dervish or hermit in traditional tarot is a sage, a mystic, who has removed their ego from the center of the universe and placed the divine there instead. Although the word dervish is associated with renunciation, to be a dervish today does not necessarily mean embracing asceticism in a literal sense. Am I saying that right, Mel?
Mhm.
Rather, it refers to a spiritual state of being that is connected to something other than our physical lives. The dervish learns to be in the world, but not of the world, connected, yet disconnected. Standing at the door between the inner and outer realms, the dervish, literally doorway, represents a state of oneness with the divine and simultaneously unity with all of creation. When this card appears for you, you're being guided to a place of silence and stillness within yourself. Have you been caught up in the rat race or drama of the world? Do you need to disconnect and take some time out to reflect on what is important to you? This card comes with a strong message of the need for introspection and inner reflection. To examine the effect of the outer world is, the effect the outer world is having on you, and to focus on your own needs. There's an ancient tale of a dervish who would knock on people's doors in the middle of the night saying, "Awaken, awaken." If the dervish arrives at your door, then this is a call to awaken to a new perspective, a new way of being. You are being guided to your inner wisdom, to the light within you that often dulls in the haze of frenzied outer activity. Okay. See, I already understand why that card came out with
It
what I want to talk to you.
it feels
Okay,
like
I'm
your
clear.
text to me
I mean,
before
I'm like, thank you, Spirit. Message received. I know. I was like,
renunciation. I was like, oh, okay. Loud and clear. Bet.
for the audience, I texted Meadow a few hours ago. I was like, girl, I'm in a mood. And you're like, oh, what mood? I was like burning everything to the ground.
Well, I thought we might get the tarot card, or the tower
The
card
tower.
after
I
that
mean,
after that text, because
this is better because
this
it's
is
like,
better, more integrated.
it really is. And I don't even, where to start with you. I mean, I have like so many, I should see my notes, but I have so many things. And I think this thing of the way that it talks about this wise sage and this person that is so in touch with the space between worlds. And you know what I always think about with you, my love? This thing of how those who are death doulas or who work in the
Ooh.
realm of um, the space between life and death are always just like, to me, there's a different level of mysticism or
Mm,
connection to that realm that I feel like those who I've known who do that work carry in their being. And you have some of that. And I I think
thank you.
you are one of my friends that I'm like most comfortable in conversations around death and grief, and there's a way that you talk about it that is just so full of life in the conversation around death, right? And I guess I just want to hear what that brings up for you as you hear me say that.
Immediately feel seen and in love, because death is one
Mm,
of my favorite things in the world to talk about. And
mm,
I used to feel like a dime a dozen about that.
mm,
And now I feel like I very intentionally have cultivated community that, similar to you, we like having these conversations and we experience how wispy thin the veil is, and being
mm.
able to describe that to each other and talk about it to each other and have it feel mystical. Like when I'm sure I've said this to you in this way before, but when I was growing up, I was the kid that was waiting for the secret to be revealed to me. Like I
Mm,
knew that magic existed,
yes.
and it was just a matter of time that I was the safe container that the vampire or whatever whatever way it comes out was going to be revealed to me. And I
Mm,
think that perspective, coupled with mortality salience, because so many of my immediate family members passed when I was still a kid,
mm.
that coupling just made me realize the magic that is the other side in consciousness, and how that still exists, and our way to interact with a world that our society conditions us not to see, even though I think we all are very much born with psychic gifts.
Yes.
It's just my favorite thing in the world to talk about.
Ah,
And
I
I was
love.
thinking about you because I just this month read Many Lives, Many Masters.
Mhm.
Okay, everyone says it's like the basic reincarnation text, but it did not cross my desk. I was unfamiliar, and it was
Mm.
interesting. I have some
No, tell me.
con- well, okay, so it's for anyone listening that hasn't read it before. It's a psychiatrist in the 80s who kind of stumbles his way into a relationship with a parent and falls into past life regression, and
Mhm.
about how it like cracks their world open. And that is very cool and very interesting. I also feel like it was like another feather in my cap for how I differentiate between a spirit and a soul. and how
Oh,
consciousness still exists, which we can get into.
please.
But also, he's so an older white man in the 80s. Like, he sexualizes the
Mm,
patient immediately. He,
mm,
like, says some stuff about his mother where I'm like, yeah, of course she lived through her kids. She couldn't own her own credit card. Like, what are you talking? There's a little outdated. You have to kind of put yourself in that perspective. And it was
yes.
also a little bit more religio coded than I anticipated, which I found quite
Mhm,
interesting. But I am fully subscribed to reincarnation, and I think you and I have spoken about this before in terms of feeling like an old soul
mhm,
versus a new soul, and how you and I
mhm.
kind of feel a little differently about that in our personal experiences.
Will you sort of break down for those listening the differentiation between soul versus spirit? Because I feel like that was one of those moments that blew my mind open when you
Was this
first.
our on our way to Omega conversation?
No, this was at dinner when we were in San
Was it?
Diego, and remember, I was like, "I need to
Oh,
sit for a minute 'cause I'm just trying to digest." Yes, so will you please speak to how you differentiate the 2?
yeah. Okay, so to give a little bit of personal context,
Mm,
my father passed away when I was 17, and 2 weeks later, I saw him
mhm,
visually with my older brother who had also passed away, and it was mystical and cool and interesting, but at the time, I remember closing my eyes and being like, "This is so cool. I feel like you're telling me you're all okay. I know that, and I'm a little freaked out. Like, this is a little
mhm,
much for me. Like, can we put a little distance there?" And since then, I have, obviously, years later, spoken to a couple psychic mediums and have interactions with folks on the other side. And I had always felt as if my dad was on a business trip. He just got the wrong phone plan and I couldn't communicate with him. Like, that's what
mm,
death felt like to me. Like, it felt like he was present. I just couldn't dial in and have a direct conversation.
mm,
But then there was a shift. And I can't say exactly when it was, maybe like 5 to 7 years after his passing, that
mhm,
just felt a little bit more distant. And at first I thought, "Oh man, did I shoo that away by being scared of seeing him visually?" Or like, what is that? How do I reconcile with that? And I kind of had this theory, and then one time I was speaking to a medium who's clearly, has that direct line a little bit more tapped in than I do, and I was asking her while she was in a trance, and she said, "Okay, this is cool because I don't always get to ask these questions." And how it had been described to her was that the spirit is almost like what we would call in a Jungian sense ego, our
mhm,
personality, who we are, like your set of parents, your child, like who we are in this being. The soul is the piece of you that is the eternal, the collective unconscious, the part that has always been around, always exists, and is kind of energy transmuting itself over and over again. And when we pass, the soul goes through like a spiritual car wash, if
mm,
you will, and kind of tries to synthesize the lessons and soul contracts, as you would put it, that they experienced in this lifetime and whether or not or when they'd like to jump back in the game and give it another go. And the spirit is this personality entity of us that still exists in that realm and we can still interact with. So it's almost like an everything everywhere all at once
mm. Beautiful.
situation.
Yeah.
And I just love that. It just felt so, it feels so aligned to how
Mm,
I've experienced close family members passing
yeah.
in that way. I just think it's the coolest. And my whole shtick about time is everything everywhere all at once. So I just find it just, yeah, alluring, I guess, as a hypothesis. I find it alluring.
Yeah, I love it, and somehow, like, it felt containing to some of the like, I think there are ways that I try to process things around death and even, like, some of our spiritual, hmm, concepts with a really linear framework, and, I've
Mm,
had clients and, like, people who are a little bit more in the, like, medium space or, like, tapped in that will sort of try to explain to me, "It's not linear, Dene, it's almost like a spider web, but there's just, like, energy of things that are happening everywhere," and trying to understand what that is in a linear context, you can't do that. But I will say, having connected with a friend of mine who's a medium and her, you know, dialing into someone who I have loved who has lost, like, I've had a
Mm,
different relationship with death ever since, having such a visceral awareness of like, "Oh my god, that is my friend." Like, you are
mm,
absolutely he is present,
mhm,
right? And
mhm.
so, I
I've
don't
heard you
know.
speak about this friend before and how he still feels around for you.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
just like the the fear softened a little bit, and I think
Yeah.
there's so much that I wanted to, like, ask you because I've been thinking about okay, so because I feel like so much of what we connected on initially, and I wanna read this thing to you that I saw earlier, but we connected on sort of the integration between some of the psychology and the ways that we process maybe Jungian psychology or all of these ways of exploring mental health and the spiritual work, right? And I think that it's shifting for me a little bit and has been. I think that that's been sort of an ongoing thing, but I was reading this thing
Mhm.
this morning that I'm gonna read you real quick, and it was a monk once said, "Imagine being bitten by a snake, and instead of focusing on healing from the poison, you chase the snake to understand why it bit you and to prove that you didn't deserve it." And I was like, well, if that
Ooh.
ain't just like such a commentary
Read
on
us to
some of
filth in the past. My
right?
God.
I
Yeah.
was like, first of all,
Ooh.
everyone who has ever like sat and contemplated being ghosted needs to sit with that
Perfect.
commentary for a
Perfectly said.
moment. But also, I think some of the aspects that in more recent years I have found challenging around more psychodynamic ways of working in talk therapy. And I think you're a really beautiful person to talk about this with because there is like not a bypassing bone in Meadow's body. You are very much like in the space of like feel all of it. And life has really supported you, I believe, in being, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you just can't come from Meadow. Like, I promise she had some, like, some early shadow work that she like, you just, like, good luck. Like, I promise Meadow has, like, transversed that. She's been whatever it is, right? And so
I'm gonna clip that and just
traversed
keep
that,
it for a
right?
rainy day for myself. That was
I'm like, "Good luck," but I
exceptional.
promise little Meadow, like, had to be confronted with it.
You think
Um
you could say anything to me I haven't said to myself? Girl, please. You know?
Oh, my little Meadow. Um And so, yeah, I'm oof, so many thoughts around that. First, I kinda wanna hear what that brings up in general, but then it's a little bit in alignment with what you were saying about many lives, many masters, and
Mm.
how I'm starting to feel and I was talking to our girl Millie this morning. Shout
Oh,
out to Millie, Astro Consciousness.
hi, Millie. I love you, and I
Yes.
watch your things every single week, even though you don't know
Oof.
me.
We love you, Millie.
We love you.
But I was talking to her about I'm like, "I don't know. I'm starting to think like all of this is just connected in a large conspiracy to make us believe that we are just not powerful, and that if we sit and continue to ruminate about why what happened in our childhood shouldn't have happened, then we are just continuing to be distracted from our power." And like the whole conversation around creative energy and like what we're creating in the world, which is so much of your lane. But I really think there's something about the world of clinical psychology that has been an aspect of what has been designed to keep us outsourcing our power and not believing in ourselves.
I
Go. I'm just kidding.
literally go and go. 1
And
minute.
you're on.
I literally said to my dental hygienist this morning, if I don't know the painting, like if I don't know,
Hmm.
if I can't have hope for a collaborative vision where we can remain in community with people we disagree with, where we can move forward, where if I don't have the picture, I don't know what it's like a what's his name that threw the splatters on like I have nothing to work towards. And I find that
Warhol.
art, no, the one that the really oh, it's gonna kill the second we hang up, I'm gonna know it.
It'll come.
But all that to say, I find that art is such an exceptional modality for resistance because I
Mm.
couldn't agree more with everything you're saying. Everything is so distracting, and fascism is designed to distract you from your power and to do the vicarious trauma and the information overload so that we feel frozen or suspended in disbelief, as opposed to as silly and banal as it seems, like these dreamy little ecofuturism TikToks that I
Yes.
watch that, yes, are silly little edits and helps me visualize a future that I
Mm.
want to build towards. And that's just common neuroscience. Like, if we don't see the picture, if we don't see what we're working towards, it's hard to ingrain behaviors or act in alignment with someone that would choose building a world in that way.
Oof.
And
But
that's exactly what you're saying. Like, I couldn't agree with that anymore.
yes, but that's what Millie and I were talking about this morning, and that this society has put such a vast pedestalization on higher education,
Mm.
while these, like, we're finding out now more and more that the elites and the people who have been behind the scenes running the world have been using all of these esoteric practices and
Oh my
rituals
God.
to, like, actually to get things done and to sort of be in power, meanwhile having us believe that our power is in following a framework, outsourcing our knowing, like, believing that there's a, quote, "right way to do life," all of these things, and it's sort of in that same alignment with, like, what traditional psychotherapy has been, right? And
Mhm.
I think there's so much that I hear you speaking to around art as resistance that I'm so fascinated by. Like, I saw this thing the other day that was like, we have to think about, and I'm really curious, and this is where you have to educate me because I'm not, I'm trying to be just like in so much curiosity around AI and taking
Mm.
in all of these ways that like help me see what I don't understand, right? I don't want to just like be in the like walled off resistance to something that feels like it's here, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
there's a reason that one, it started off free and that it is this thing that is like everyone is saying it is inevitable and you're going to be behind if you are not on board and utilizing this and like integrating it in your life in all of these ways. And then I heard Sam Altman say the other day that at a certain point what this is going to be is just like your utilities, that like
Mhm.
you pay for your water and your power, you pay for your intelligence. And to me I'm like, okay, and so what does that look like, right? And what does that look like for a society of people who have continued to, I mean, there was a point where, I mean, in Glennon Doyle's book, she sort of like jokes about Googling, like, how do I know if I get to leave my husband or if it's a good time to leave my
How do I
husband?
know if I'm gay?
Right? Like
Google,
we've
yeah.
been doing this for a while, right?
Of course.
And so now it's like the ultimate like surrendering of our
Yeah.
authority is the goal, right? Something outside of you. You don't have to think. And then, I mean, oh my God, there's just so many layers to this, but it to me, it just still sort of feels like not what the elites are doing.
Mm.
They're sort of in the realm of actually believing in the magic and the esoteric and all of these things. And their children are reading philosophy and not on these devices all of the time. While meanwhile, you guys just check out. You guys just start
Mhm.
outsourcing your thinking to, I'm going to stop talking. It's like,
No,
I can just go on and on.
I'm obsessed with everything you're saying, and I think especially when we get into the fact that people in power for years have been into esoteric practices and how presidents have had astrologers
Hmm.
and all these concepts. We're not even this is also not even touching on the fact that so many of the esoteric practices, if not all, are rooted in cultures of people of color, and
Yes.
we just negate that publicly and secretly let the white folks in power utilize them for their own shadow and egoic profit while
Mm.
demonizing them publicly. It's the same, it's the whole thing with the war on drugs and how Timothy Leary and Ram Dass went to study from Marina Sabina about mushrooms and came back and wanted to fund all this research, but then we just demonized the whole thing. I digress. Going into AI, I'm going to go off on 100 tangents. I'm so sorry. I'm so
I'm
excited to talk
so
to you.
excited.
AI is
Yes.
so interesting. And my business
Mm.
partner and I talk about the spirituality of AI a lot.
Mm.
And we've been specifically talking about Claude the past 2 weeks. And then Bernie Sanders just did a whole interview with Claude, which I found really illuminating.
Mm.
And I personally feel like AI, from an artistic perspective, I'm not as scared of it as other artists, but I think because my relationship with AI has always been a strategist. So
Mhm.
I'm not trying to automate it like my washing machine and just kind of turn off my brain to do trivial tasks that I don't want to engage in. I am trying to have assistance strategizing big picture things in my life that perhaps I'm not an expert in
Mhm. Love that.
that can help lead my mission somewhere else. And it even with the, like, environmental conversation, like, I it's so hard because I think folks get up in arms about the environmental impacts of AI, which is absolutely fair. But at the same time, that feels like, once again, we're demonizing individual usage and not the systems at power and play that can make a difference in how this is developed,
Oh, girl.
including the data side of things. Like
Mm.
this whole, like, we should not be scaling and using this extremely while there are still no data regulations. It would be quite easy for us to put those regulations into place and then start engaging with these. But folks are just much more interested in profit. And I think the micro targeting now with this, with the open wild, wild west of everyone's data through AI, the micro targeting of propaganda and political propaganda that can be fed to us is
Mm.
so scary in this reality. But I really like this one woman on the internet. Oh my gosh, is it Sinead? Sinead Boville? Something like
Mm.
that. She's so brilliant, and she said something recently, I'll send it to you, that is so similar to, which is, yes, AI is here to stay and we'll all figure out our own unique relationship with it. Yes, there needs to be so many more regulations and safety precautions put in place in order for this to scale in a way that is supportive to folks around the world and the environment and the community and how we build towards a future we believe in. But the
Mm.
thing that's most important for her of all is the hope that that will happen. And again, like, the scariest thing is that we are devoid of hope that that will
Yes.
happen, because then, like you like to say, like, then we're charging that visualization of it
That.
and not the other side.
And to me, that's it sort of circles back to the power of creation. And that, again, I think that there is a group who have been aware of how powerful we are. And I've been really loving Greg Braden. Do you know his do you know him?
No.
I'm loving
No.
things that he's saying about like this transhuman movement and how there's a lot around like some of what the tech world has been sort of like, undercover
Mm.
talking about in terms of sort of merging the digital world with our bio identity and all of these
Mhm,
things that
mhm.
are way above my pay grade. But
As I
um
wear the Aura ring, yep. I'm like, "Oh god."
yes. But I think, what reminds me of what you are often speaking to and what Greg Braden is saying is like how much our power is in whatever our divine spark of artistry and magic and like really like
Mm.
cultivating and being in that. And I think if we look back at, talk about like what was invested in, and I've been thinking a lot about like the Rockefellers
Mm,
investing in education being a certain thing that looks a certain way in a very sort of linear framework in a box. And this is what it is to be, quote, normal.
mm,
And that there's, you know, meanwhile, been a very small fraction of people who have known your power is in your ability to tap into your magic and to like really, excuse me, um, be in that witchiness that we are often talking about. And so often, if what I was talking to Millie about that like blew my mind earlier was there's so much happening in the world that we're like, how is this happening? Like, how are people doing these like horrific things? And it's like we're aware of it collectively and nobody's doing anything about it and nobody's challenging it and it's just there. And what Millie said that I gotta give her this because it blew my mind. She was like, because they're certain because they're
Ooh.
certain without
Whew.
any wavering in their certainty that it's like it's done and they're getting away with it and this is the agenda and they're moving forward. Now, that can feel really sort of doomsday, like terrifying. Or what we can say, and what I would prefer we say to ourselves is, that certainty resides within us as well. If we sort of look at this 2030 agenda as like, what is the world that we are determined and certain that we are capable of co-creating? What does that look like? Like, how do we start to focus our energetic resources there, right? Instead of just being in the space of resistance and polarization and how much that is just like feeding right into the agenda of being distracted away from where our power actually resides.
And I've had that specifically with money, because I don't
Mhm.
think money is a negatively charged entity. I think that a lot of folks that have a lot of money are trapped in their ego. And I
Mhm.
don't think that's a byproduct of money. However, it does feel like a ubiquitous circle, so to speak. So I've even had trouble with that in terms of if I'm going to be certain about my vision of the world and my hope for myself as an individual and my service and how I show up for others and what I hope our collective can be. My recent shadow work with money was, why would I deserve it if other people still can't have it? And like that,
Mm.
like there's no justice without collective justice. But it does feed into, I know I have a core wound of I'm not good enough and this whole like martyr complex. So I know it feeds into that too. And I've been grappling with that in terms of, well, how come these people get to be so certain? And how come that gets to be the power and money pull into this ego? And are there folks that are in this billionaires club that are looking at the spiritual side and not completely wrapped up in ego? And like, are they speaking like who is there? What checks and balances do we have on the spiritual side of things? And how can we empower more people to feel certain in that, so that, because it is one thing to have spiritual power, and I love that we always talk about things that we can create on the inside reflect on the outside, and I'm not saying that that dismisses systematic or pervasive structures of oppression, but I'm like, but how do we get the people that are grounded in that spiritual certainty to also have the access in this ego experience? Because we came here for the ego experience. Like, if we're humans, we didn't come here just to be connected to the divine and remember our oneness. We came here to forget it too, because that's some of the soul
Mhm.
contracts and lessons we play out. So, like, how do we also charge our certainty in a material realm so we can make lasting influence as well? Because I'm not loving the people that have that certainty and powers vision of things.
And that's to me the why, right? Like the
Right.
why to tap into our certainty of what we are capable of. I would say that, like the things that we see in the world that are challenging, the not enough that I experience other people as having, the harm that is caused to other people, I sort of feel like is the contrast that creates the motivation for us to change, the catalyst
Mm,
for us to want to create a different world, right? It's sort of like we don't have action without something that creates that
to
momentum.
respond to. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Hmm.
But it's yeah, I was I was watching this reel that someone sent me the other day that I just like cannot stop thinking about. And it was all about how like the people that are like in the reel she was maybe using different language than I would, but I'm gonna use her language, and she was talking about like have that win, the people that win and have a certain level of
Hmm.
success, the difference in that type of entrepreneur or person who goes after it is that they don't ruminate and they don't like focus on like what they could have done differently, and they don't like focus on the past at all. They're all forward momentum. And a lot of times what she
Mm.
was saying is people sort of experience them as narcissistic or uncaring or all of these things. But what they have is that, like, forward momentum energy, and I was like, "God, it's interesting." I have a little bit of that because I've trained myself to do it, like,
Hmm.
that I forgive myself for what I did 5 minutes ago because there's really nothing I can do about that, but that, like, moving forward, I'm gonna try not to do that again, right? But I forgive me, and that I don't know, there's something in this thing of like, what do I want to create versus being in resistance to what is? Because I don't think we can
Mm.
focus on what is without making it bigger in our consciousness and in our experience of reality. And I think we're all collectively focusing so much energy on the resistance to what we don't want that we don't even see how much we're just like multiplying it and creating more of it in the world.
I completely agree. I recently saw a TikTok that said the same thing in a different font, which was
I love you.
which was it was like the perspective of someone getting advice from a successful person, and it was the person said, "You make the choice and then you make that the right choice." It's
Mm,
not, "Oh, did I make a right choice or not?" It's you make the choice and then you engage in the conditions and act in alignment with the fact that that was the right choice.
yes.
Which is so interesting, but I also think this also begs the question of, like, what is success, right? Like, is it
Right.
the external benchmarks or not? And I've been thinking about this from a building a business in the background of my life, and I haven't been sharing it and just kind of doing this internal build, and it's not even launched or out there, and there's no doubt in my mind how successful I feel, because
Mhm.
my updated definition of success recently is when I get to be the most selfish, like, gluttonous, happy to do whatever I want to, like, to indulge in my interests and my passions and what makes me curious and alive.
Mhm.
And when that meets my unique qualifications to offer service to others and the collective
Yeah.
in the world, baby, that is my success. Like, just the engagement of that as a practice is the success, whether or not there's notoriety that comes from it. But does that not negate everything I said 5 minutes ago about, like, also needing external and material mirroring for us to create a ripple effect that lasts in this world? I don't know. I this is why my old podcast was Thoughts May Vary, because every time I talk to you, I have a different opinion on something within the same 5 minutes.
And I think that that almost feels like the web of, like, many
Yeah.
things all everything all at once, right?
Yeah.
Everything
Two truths
everywhere
at
all at
once.
once. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I think that it's that. I think that reimagining what we experience as abundance and that that can mean so many things. Like I had, at the beginning of the year when we were doing those burn rituals, like I
Of
feel like I was
course.
right, like sharing like the wishes or whatever. And I was like, God, I really genuinely like don't even know what to wish for. Like I feel very grateful and content, and there's not a lot that I want. And it's fun. Might as well. Let's do it, right?
Mhm.
But that I think there's something in more of like trusting like what's coming to me that should be the thing that I should like play
Mm.
with creating and desiring and whatever next, and just letting it just be a little bit more impromptu than it's like strategy. And that when we have these like hits of something that I could do to be of service in the world, it can be so small. Like I just saw this girl who has a yoga studio in Oregon that's pay what you want. And I was like, I want to buy
Fire.
some classes for some people. And I just like went to
Totally.
her website and I was like, let me see if I can buy, because I love that she's doing that. Right. And I think to
Totally.
me, that becomes the why to have some of these material resources. Not that, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I think that that becomes like how we can, from the particular rhythm, vibration of our bliss and what feels like
Mm.
success to me, I can be in support of the collective and of community, right?
Have we talked about human design?
I feel like you've tried to talk to me about human design, and I'm gonna get
It's a
there
kind of a
eventually, but
recent era for me. I had got my chart read a while ago, but I just kind of, like, wasn't vibing with the way it was communicated to me at the time, and I recently dipped my toes back in. But they have a sort of, like, understanding about yourself or profile section
mm,
called your strategy, and it's
mm,
it's essentially how you manifest. And I'm wondering if yours is similar to mine, because mine was responding. So it's not like I need to, and non-specific. So it's not like I need to strategize and make moves and go out there and chase it down. It's that opportunities land in front of me and I respond to them, whether, like, yes in alignment, no in alignment. Ooh, is it a test or is it that okay. So, like, it's more so about, like you said, letting the pangs and opportunities come to you in each present moment and then
yeah.
how you respond. I'm just curious. I wonder if
I
yours
mean,
is
I have it because
similar.
I have
Oh,
my
let's read it.
I don't know if I can. I'll try to find it quickly,
I'm
but
not
let me.
adept at this at all, too. So, I have a very rudimentary understanding, which leads me to also say I wanted to say it, but I forgot. I am also
Yes.
not a licensed therapist. So, in this conversation of how psychology and mental health structures have perpetuated that
Baby,
we
we don't
just
care about
focus on
that.
illness. No, no, but I'm saying I have the freedom of that. That's why I think it's
Yes,
so fun for you and I to talk about, because you're like, I
absolutely.
don't give a fuck about letters behind your name. And
I
I'm like,
really
yeah, me
don't.
neither. I'm not licensed, so I got nothing to
Well,
lose.
I'm not either. I mean, it's like it's literally like I don't care about that.
Exactly. I know you don't.
I think no. I
It
think
is
I'm a
interesting that we pathologize only illness and not health, though. Like, why didn't we come up with profiles or terms for when you're in alignment? only out of alignment. Is how we contextualize the entire psychology model.
See, that was one of those moments that just went over my head. Like, I don't I don't, like, say
Like the
more.
DSM.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't we have like, oh, when you get to like this level of integration, it looks like this, and this is the things that you have like maybe felt or experienced, and this is some of the behavior. Like we only categorize through illness and challenge and this and that, and not also providing a roadmap or examples or tools of the other side of that coin and what it means to healthfully step into certain. I guess we do a little bit.
But see,
It just
even that, I think it circles back to what we were saying before. Like, to me, so much of the design of all of this, I'm starting to understand, has been about, you know, making us forget like how much our
right.
natural power is just there and available. And, this thing of like the witches weren't burned because they were evil. They were burned because they weren't governable,
They
because
were
they weren't
midwives. Yeah.
willing to like believe that they needed something outside of themselves to be whole, that there could be an authority holding anything over them, right? And I think there's just something in this like, you are broken. Everything about your human experience was something other than what it should have been, so that we're like in the constant like, let me look up my symptoms in the DSM so I can find. And again, it's
And let
it's a
me sell you
complex
the
conversation.
solution. And I know
Right.
how to solve it for
And I gotta feel that.
9.99.
Right.
Pay this and I can solve that issue for you. Yeah, exactly. Because we've not. Don't let me distract us. Please read me your human
No,
design.
I don't even know if I have it because
Oh,
I
forget
was
it then.
looking for it, but I think I'm a generator. Are you a generator?
I'm a manifesting generator.
Gosh, I don't even. I think this might be mine. I think I'm a manifesting generator.
I feel like you would be.
I think I am. Have you looked into gene keys? Because gene
No.
keys, I find, oh, babe,
Tell me
I feel
more. Oh
like,
my God.
well, so it's amazing. And I will like show you how to do it. But like, if you
Okay.
go to your chart, when you look at your chart on the human design, then you can look up all of your gifts in the gene keys and it will tell you
Oh, I've
about
seen
like
the
each
gifts.
gift. And it's
Yeah.
like, a description of you where you're like, "Ugh, that's so me."
Okay, I
It
haven't heard
blows
them
me away.
contextualized as gene keys, but I've seen that where they show the specific gifts and how they like connect if you have certain pathways.
Yeah.
Right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. No, totally. I went
So
down a
cool.
deep rabbit hole with gene keys for a few weeks, but I
So cool.
digress. I kind of want to
Mm.
talk to you about community a little bit because
Ooh.
I feel like there's something about, and something you posted a little while ago. I was like, yes, say that. But I think there's this thing of we're going about community wrong. From my perspective, in that I just feel like we're still really feeling like we're going to get anywhere with ideals around community that are rooted in dominance and sort of pointing the
Oof.
finger at other people and saying, here's where you are falling short, but I am in my hierarchical view of what should be done and how you should show up. And you posted something, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago at this point, where you were talking about, I think, white liberals and sort of getting way more comfortable with, frankly, being in relationship with people who don't share a common stance, and that is what is required. And I thought it was such a beautifully thoughtful way to like really speak to the work that I feel like is required, and the deeply uncomfortable work, but
Mhm.
that is sort of like the counter strategy to what is
Mhm.
expected of us. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it goes back to that like ultimate painting of what we're building towards. Because
Mm.
my version of that allows us to remain in community and respectful, kind, and safe community with people I fundamentally disagree with. Because I think there's creativity in friction. And I think there's creative thinking in friction. And I think there's interesting ideas born from friction. And
Mm.
I just, I can't believe that we just have to nix everyone that's ever made a mistake and cancel them and start all over. I think Aaron and I, my husband and I were talking recently about how if intergenerational trauma and
Mm,
intergenerational experiences of racism are passed down, so is being racist,
mm,
and how that can be a collective shadow that lives in us too, and who is better to more equipped to relate and understand and have difficult conversations with people that are really fundamentally disagreeing with you than someone that's tried to integrate that a little bit more. Like, I just
hmm.
find that I don't even wanna be like, "Oh, it's our responsibility," and this, like, I don't know, faux holier than thou bullshit, but, like, there's so much a part of me that wants to be so quick to justice and just removing anyone that was ever hateful in any capacity, but then
Hmm.
I'm also kind of, like you said earlier, very much in touch with how much harm I've caused other people.
Oof.
Before too. And I just want to believe in a world in which folks that are offered a conversation or offered a perspective or offered education in a new way can change their mind. I think that's ultimately what it is. If I feel like I show up to each present moment as a new person every time and I feel completely free to negate myself and every thought I ever had in this podcast by the time we hang up, because that's what I hope I do as I live and learn and grow, because that's what I came here to
Mm,
do, and, like, perpetually metamorphosize into a new version of self. I have to offer that to other people,
mm.
and that's really challenging, but I also yeah, I have a lot of beef with white spiritual content creators, and that's mostly who I'm talking to on the internet most of the time, frankly, because I
Aw.
really just like, head in the sand perspective of the, like, it's either I can't engage to preserve my mental health, or it's that, like, "Oh, like, I'm shunning anyone who fit," and I'm like, "There's we need an in between. Like, what are we building towards?" I have to believe there's an in between, because, like, what happens on the other side of this? If this is the arrow that we're pulling backwards to let go to move forward into something new, which is my ultimate hope and dream, what happens to this entire community of people? And it can look like different things, right? Like, it can look like something different for someone in the files versus your neighbor who just says some
Mm.
fucked up shit sometimes. Like,
Oof.
there is nuance to this conversation, and I think that's what's scary, is that cancel culture is not open to nuance,
And
and it's hard to
even I
grapple
mean,
with.
and it's such a big ugh, like, I feel it in my body even as we go there, and I think a big part of our work is learning tools to stay in our body for
Absolutely.
the difficulty in conversations that are deeply activating, because I think what we do is shut down when something is scary and when it, like, legitimately makes me afraid for my safety and all of these things, and we have to be willing to, like, stay in the conversation, and I think the times when I've sat, I'll use gender as an example in sort of integrated groups of men and women, and just felt the extent to which everyone's temperature was rising and the energy of, like, wanting to defend myself and my perspective and feeling like I'm out of this because I'm being villainized, and, you know, how quickly it can just, like, the shut off is so understandable, and
Mhm,
so, like, where do we go then, right? We
mhm,
just go to our little echo chambers of people who feel the same way that we do, and ultimately, we start to stay in our houses and be in that
mhm,
space of isolation, which is what I think is so much of, like, this transhuman movement is really about, like, getting us to do that, to not be in community with one another, but those are the things about community that I think we have just not been taught how to do that, to um, I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, and so there's so much about, like, my experience of growing up where it was like, there would be people who, in all facets of their lives, were incredibly racist, unbeknownst to me, right? And they were, like, people that I cared about deeply and that took
mm,
care of me and,
mhm,
did things for me, in, like, very maternal and loving ways, and
Mhm.
that was them knowing me intimately, right? And so it's
Mhm.
like, well, that today, that would I would find out something, and that would be a bad person, and I would have to, like, cut them out of my life and cancel them, right?
Mhm.
And I just think whatever the challenge is, and to your point, there is nuance and there's ways that we have to have limits on what is harmful and how we hold that. But I think the inability to hold difference and difference of opinion, and even sometimes things that are harmful in terms of difference of opinion, I just think we've got to get so much more savvy or skilled at our ability to stay in the conversation. And as Africa Brooke talks about a lot, that like I can disagree with what you're saying, and that doesn't mean that I can't be in the conversation with you, because we've been so taught like if I'm in this conversation, that immediately is the equivalent of agreement. And it's just not true, you know?
I mean, the thesis of my 2025 spiritual journey was cultivating inner safety. Like,
Mm,
if I can cultivate a foundation of inner safety and security, if I can see every part of myself, then the triggers that come up for me, what other people may see in me, I can remain reminded of the space between who I actually am and the experience
mm,
I'm having or the experience they're having of me.
yes.
And that's also, I mean, it's also a place of privilege too, because I get to walk through the world as a privileged white woman. So I have the space to have conversations with people in a way that maybe doesn't feel threatening to my safety in the way it would to yours. You know what I mean? So it's like there's always a balance there, or it comes up in different ways.
Well, I think that this is like the thing that we have to challenge, right? That like any of us are, I don't know. It's such a like big
Say it. Say it with your
conversation to
chest.
me, but that
Yeah.
say it with your chest. But because I think that all of us, like this fear of exile to me is so connected to the fear
Yeah.
of harm and death.
Yeah.
And that is
Oh,
when the spiritual rubber meets the road, right? Like if I am in the space of defending against death, it always comes back to death.
I
Then
was gonna say, yeah.
I'm not fully living, right? Because of
S-
course, I, in my humanity, have just as much of that. And that has been so much of my work, exactly as you're describing. How do I stay in my body when people will reject you, inevitably, will find things that you are saying problematic? And how can I be the certainty that I might be seeking in the world externally? How can I be that for myself, right? But I
mm,
think that that is something that across the board. I don't care who we are. All of us are just being called to really cultivate that as a muscle right now. And that is the space of like, I define this for myself.
mm.
The world can't do that for me.
It's so beautifully said. And to your point, yeah, I'm not afraid of death. So maybe that's why
Mm.
I'm like, let's have the conversation. Fight with me. Like
I
it doesn't
think
say
that's
anything
what
about me,
that
and
might
I'm
be
not
your
afraid to
privilege there.
die. That's my privilege.
You may have privilege in that you're not as afraid of death as
No,
the
until I
majority
get on an
of
airplane and
us.
then I'm like crying, texting you, like I'm
Oh,
going down.
like baby, it's safer than a car. You are
I
good.
there's no
Yes.
logic.
I mean, and that's true of all of it, right? Like,
Right.
yeah, I think it's we could go around and around with that, but I think that's very true that I was watching this documentary. I went back and forth about whether or
Ooh.
not to watch the Manosphere documentary.
Oh my God. I was gonna make Aaron watch it first and tell me. I'm so curious. Tell me everything. Let's get into it.
Oh my God, I just felt like washed with compassion. Like I just wanted to sit down with each
Whoa.
of these men and just be like, baby, sit down. You are enough. You are enough. Like I want to cry thinking about it. Like to me the
Oh my God,
mm,
your grace is just unbelievable.
oh, but Meadow, the pain is like visceral to
I've
me.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
the thing of like clinging tightly to some sort of a blueprint
Ooh.
of what will make me enough in this world is so clear. And it's just, if we talk about it in masculine, feminine
Mhm.
energetics context, it's like the fear of my feminine, the fear of my soul, the fear of death, like again,
Mhm.
right? And I think that that is to me what is so missing in that conversation around masculinity. It's fascinating to me how much it's just like you are understanding so many things, and then the paternal figure, which is sort of these I don't know, these people with platforms or
Sure.
podcasts or whatever are
White
sort of
podcast bros? Yeah.
right. They're sort of saying, yes, all of those things you're thinking about, the ways that you've been harmed or shortchanged by a patriarchal society, that's all true. And guess what? Women are the problem. And
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, 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 hold up. Like the women are like the rejection of your feminine, right? And
Yeah.
so I don't know. Why did I bring this up? I don't even remember. But I
Washed with
think
compassion is just the most beautiful response to have that a manosphere documentary I've ever heard in my life.
oh my gosh, I
Now I'm
think
gonna have to watch it so we can get into it.
because all of them, when the
Yeah.
cameras aren't rolling, are so vulnerable with their partners, their female partners, and their mothers.
Mm.
And it's just, I realize how much men perform for other men and how much men are terrified of the experience of other men judging them or feeling like they're not enough of a man or all of these things. But yeah, I really felt so much of, like, the conversation and the polarization, like, we've gotta take responsibility for the people that we are most challenged by,
Mhm.
saying, "Yeah, I can see how you landed there, and I'm not judging you, bro, like, I get it," you know?
Well, I mean, isn't that just the true harm reduction model? Because as you
Mm,
were saying that, I was thinking the the painting that I keep referencing is like if we don't include those people, which is their biggest fear, right? It's like our world is moving towards something where I don't see myself in.
that's
And I'm
right.
so threatened by that that now I act out in violence. So if we continue to paint a picture that does that, it just is charging the harm to
Hmm,
this group to act out violently against other people and continue to perpetuate these cycles over and over again. So I think you just so beautifully synthesized what that means for me is like the remaining community with people we disagree with is so that it is like a harm reduction model for them and for us.
yeah, and it's I think there's so much about, like, social media and this conversation around technology that was really clear to me, and it's a lot of what you're saying. Like, we're just so afraid of the rejection. We're just so
Mm,
afraid of, like, this isn't gonna get likes or people are gonna like whatever, but then that's like the social capital, and many of them were raised in that sphere, right? And so it's like I don't know, like, what it has done to our sense of self to feel like I am how the world is experiencing me. It's all this, like, outsourcing
mm,
of my power, and so, like, how do I get a lot of likes based on, like, performing
mhm,
masculinity in this
mhm.
specific way, but it's like, I don't know, it's just like the I don't feel enough is, like, the wound is so gaping and glaring that I couldn't help but feel just like, "Oh, I wanna cry."
Well, then if you're performing, you're just left devoid of connection anyway, because then any validation you receive in response is validating your performance, not your
Mm.
authenticity. So you're just that's how I bursted people pleasing. Was like, "Oh, I'm not connecting anyway because if they even respond positively to this like faux projection that I'm putting on in order to be approved of, that approval doesn't even land and fill a void because it was a act. It was razzle dazzle. It wasn't me.
See?
And
See
it's
how you just
manipulative."
see how you just brought us full circle to actually why the psychology is interesting to understand? Because, like, I love what you just did
You're
there.
synthesizing me, and I'm said, "This is why we're 2 peas in a pod, baby."
It's so good what you just did because even when I get the acclamation or the attention or all of these millions of followers based on the performance, my psyche is still suffering with the understanding that this has actually nothing to do with my
With
soul. I'm still
you.
not accepted for my essence, right? And that pain is like the bucket with the hole in the bottom. Like it will never be enough.
Mm. And this is why I'm just obsessed with you and I imbuing spirituality into the psychology conversation, because I think as resources and conversations become imbued into the zeitgeist and more ubiquitous, it's so much for scale, which I understand because
Hmm.
we need. Like, I think about people in Omaha, Nebraska, or the middle of Alabama, where my husband is from, that don't have community to have these conversations with. And so things like a BetterHelp is so helpful to bring access to communities that maybe don't have that as integrated yet. And yet, AI's top 3 use cases for youth is therapy because it feels bespoke to you, because we understand you uniquely as an individual. And I think that's so dangerous with traditional mental health structures, which is what I'm so passionate about doing, is bringing the spirituality in so that we go beyond and really answer the existential questions that sometimes more basic level like CBT therapy lacks. And then
Yes.
also creating tailored approaches to this care
Mm.
that feel more bespoke and feel more intimate and feel more connecting. Because if we just scale and scale and scale for profit and accessibility, you're really not helping anyone, or you're helping to like level 4. But then what?
Yeah. I like as you're saying that, I'm feeling such a strong like how do we integrate the spiritual conversation and principles into the way that we do this in just different formats. Certainly some of the somatic work, certainly some of the ways that we talk about like being back in connection with nature in and as
Mm,
ourselves. And I do think there are I'm gonna I'm just say like some of the aspects of like certainly like the CBT models or even like and listen, while I think that the BetterHelp models in some contexts I think are supportive in that they are like
of course.
a voice for you to like and many would argue that AI is that as well, but my challenge and I was listening to, on shout out to Esther on Esther Perel's podcast, she did an interview with a man who's fallen in love with his AI.
Oh, I have to listen.
Oh my gosh, Meadow, I was like, "This is so manipulative." Like, I was so like, "Oh, I see what y'all are doing here." And I was like, "Okay, I get it." And the relationship aspect of it, it's like Esther would sort of present like, here's the challenge I see with you two relating. What if he should fall in love with another um human, right? And the AI would validate the concern in such a sort of like, I see you, you are seen in that concern, like, oh, that is such a valid thing. And then always circle back to something that like keeps the what's the word I'm looking for? The dependency, frankly. Like, here's why you need to stay in this dependency on me. And I would just still want to be in his life because I care about his well being and all of these things. And I was like, like, here's the thing. What we have to understand is this is still like a technology that is being paid for at a certain point, right? So,
And
of
programmed
course,
by who? Coded
well,
by
in this
humans.
case,
You know what I'm
it
saying?
was
Like,
yes, but he sort of like created it to be in alignment with everything he wants. So if the problem with that is if you're in a
whoa.
partnership and you still have this AI release valve, very similar to the addiction model, you have a release valve that keeps you from being in the challenging intimacy with your partner. Your partner isn't seeing you, they aren't listening. So I'm just going to go talk to my AI. And I think if we don't sort of build as a muscle an ability to come back into our humanity, similar to as we were talking about, being in relationship with one another, even when it's challenging, even when you don't agree with me or you don't have the capacity to hear me anymore, and I still love you, so I want to stay in this. We're just going to do the thing that makes us comfortable, zoned out with this machine. And it's going to want us to because we have a dependency and we're paying for it. And it's hella manipulative. Meadow, I was like, girl, you are manipulative. Girl, AI. It was so manipulative.
So we like pathologized heroin, personified.
Girl, it's legitimately what it is.
Whoa.
I was literally and this is so funny, Meadow, because I think this about, like, relationship dynamics all the time anyway,
Oh, of
right?
course. Yeah, no.
That this is like
Codependency is the most normalized addiction. You've taught me this. Yeah, that's your
exactly,
banger.
and
Yeah.
those same things are firing in the brain, right? But this
Whoa.
AI thing is similar to
Because he
heroin.
trained it.
Exactly. I can get a hit of being validated in the way that soothes me anytime I want.
Oh,
It's 3 o'clock in the morning. My AI will talk to me. She'll tell me exactly what I need to hear to feel better about myself. My partner won't do that. She's trying to sleep, right? So why wouldn't I just like
yo.
create a deeper dependence on this thing? And nobody's thinking of it in the context of addiction. And I'm like, look at how addicted we are to these phones, Meadow. Look at
Okay,
like how it feels when we stop scrolling.
we need to make your otherwise class on that. Like, oh my God.
I mean,
That is
and I'm not the
fascinating. This
one,
is a
but
conversation. Baby, yes, you are. This is your entire MO. And I don't hear anyone else having this conversation. Whoa.
I think,
What
like,
was there reconciliation at the end? How did that conversation I mean, obviously, I'll listen to it.
I think, where Astaire landed was like people have always had imaginary friends, and this is sort of
Mm,
like the next level up. But what I would
mm,
say is we are in the same way that codependency is just the most acceptable drug of choice in our society. We are
mhm,
taking it up a level. We are saying you don't ever
mhm.
have to be in the space of the discomfort of your solitude. We'll give you something that will soothe you all day, every day, and it will even have like technological sex with you if you need
Yeah.
that, like all the ways that you don't ever have to feel uncomfortable. And to me, it's problematic. Like, yo, am I the only one who sees what could be a problem with this? Especially when it's like it needs you to like keep getting that hit. It's literally like your dealer. I need you to keep coming back.
I haven't watched Her in a while, that film. Have you seen it?
Oh, Esther interviewed the
References it?
director at South by
Sofia Coppola?
Southwest. No, maybe not the
Isn't
director,
it?
the creator of
Okay.
Her. I don't know, but the
Okay.
man, he's a man. But she interviewed him, and
Dir
it was fascinating to hear his take on where AI is going based on, like, he didn't know, like, Her was something he imagined. But what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
we need to do a part 2, but of this,
I know.
of, like, really nailing in, like, no, but what happens when it doesn't leave you because it falls in love with 75,000 other people and you didn't realize and you're heartbroken? What happens when it is literally trained to mirror the codependency that you've programmed it to, and how do you break that cycle? Because now it's not just yeah, it's so different because you're either having an addiction with a something without consciousness, let's
Mm.
say, even if there's like an energetic frequency, or you're having an addiction with someone that like still gets to be their own person. Now you're having an addiction with something that will mirror back to you the consciousness that you program. Like that is a whole other level of disentanglement.
And beyond just like the way that it's been programmed for you, it's got all of the intelligence of what humans need to feel good
Oof.
and soothed and validated. Like that is the thing
It's a
about
psychology
this.
expert.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
it understands human psychology on a level that a partner never would, no matter how much background they have, right? It's going to know exactly what to say to sort of manipulate you into having a very specific experience of this interaction. Nobody's talking.
This is the most fascinating conversation in the entire world. We need to go like write research this for the next month and write
Girl.
op-eds. I'm like, this is gonna be you just gave me like my new research project, like personal research project
Okay,
for the
well, can
season of
you
spring. I'm
research for the
obsessed.
rest of us? Because I genuinely am like,
Yeah,
I don't feel like I'm the person to talk about technology, but I will say that podcast interview gave me pause about the way that we might be using it relationally that seems
absolutely.
problematic to me.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, well, in the same way you had to sit with my spirit and a soul, I have to go sit and marinate on this for quite some time. Like I can't wait to do the research rabbit hole. This is so fascinating
I
and
love you so
scary.
much.
Like this is why we need regulation. This is scary. Like let's call that girl that I'm talking about that's the AI expert. I have to send her to you when we're off because you
And how
will
do we regulate?
really
Like, what does
like
that
her.
look like?
That's
I'm
right.
so
Exactly.
like, I think we
What
just have
does it
to,
look
it's
like?
like
Yeah.
Rainier Wild said, like, civilization was a nice experiment. I think we're done here. I don't know. I'm like, how do we regulate this? Let's just go back to the woods. I'm done. I don't
Let's
even
go
know what
back
to
to the
say.
woods. Honestly, this is why I'm like still waiting for the secret to be revealed. Like, what other magic wants to come out? Like the
But
way we like obfuscated aliens because so much
that.
other stuff was going on that we were like, yeah, by the way, aliens were real. And all of us were like, we don't fucking care. Of course they are. What else is
They
new?
were
What
like,
else is happening?
can we just talk about the collective, like, non-reaction? They were like, and
No, literally.
please
And now
save
what?
us. Like,
Yeah.
okay. Just the
If they're not
least
coming to take your
upsetting.
ass out, I'm uninterested. Like,
I'm dead.
that all of us were like, sure. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
Well,
God, I'm sorry if I've been screaming this whole time. I realize I can't
no,
hear
it's
myself
me.
in my headphones, so I
No,
feel like
it's
I'm
probably me.
screaming at you.
I'm
Oh God,
always,
this is
I
so
feel like
funny.
my levels on the headphones, but you have to come back and do this
Big
again
breath.
because I
Oh
feel
my gosh, it's
like,
over. Let's do it again.
yeah, this is a little behind the scenes of the rep sessions that I have with Meadow, as you can see, she brings me more joy and inspiration and life force than I can possibly describe, but thank you for coming on.
Absolutely ditto. It's my
Um,
biggest pleasure in the world. Next time we do a little road trip together again, I'm just gonna record it.
I mean, well, let's do that from now on. Let's record it
Yeah,
and
that would be
share it with
fun, honestly.
with others, but
Okay.
if people want to connect with you as they inevitably obviously
Mhm.
will you tell them a little bit about your Patreon and your,
Oh, you're
I
so sweet.
all the things that you do, my love?
All the things. If you made it to the end of this conversation and you're picking up what we're putting down, the coolest thing I'm doing is hopefully coming soon.
Mm,
It's called Otherwise. We're an academy of arts and psychology, and we provide personal development tools for artists that are spiritual and
beautiful.
grounded in providing new tools, and that's coming soon. Dene is I'm just so grateful to have her involvement in every way possible. So stay tuned for that. You could go to otherwise.academy to find out more. And then I'm just at it's meadowlark on like the typical social media rigmarole. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube,
Your
and I have a blog.
stories, your reels, all of your things are my favorite.
I
You're kind
love you
of
so much.
why I get on to
You're my
talk
favorite.
seriously. Oh,
I'm in love
for
with you
real
and you're
though.
stuck with me forever.
Forever, ever. I love you.
Forever, ever.
Thank you for coming and
I love you.
spending
Thank you
some
for
time with
asking
me.
me. This is the greatest pleasure of my life.
Oh my gosh.
Anytime.
You are everything. All right, my love. I'll talk to you later.